Karen came to the house. She's very upset. This is no good. You gotta straighten this thing out. Remember when a gangster movie stopped being something you watched and started feeling like something you lived through? Released in 1990, Goodfellas is Martin Scorsese's take on the true story of Henry Hill, a mob associate who spent decades climbing through organized crime before the whole thing collapsed. Ray Liotta plays Henry. Robert De Niro plays the ice-cold Jimmy Conway. Lorraine Bracco plays Karen Hill, the woman who looked at all this chaos and thought, yes, this is absolutely the life for me. And Joe Pesci plays Tommy DeVito, the man who made ordinary dinner conversations feel like genuine threats. The film is based on Nicholas Pileggi's book Wise Guy and tracks Henry's rise, his unraveling, and the choices that put him in front of a federal prosecutor. Today we are counting down 15 weird facts about Goodfellas, and stick around for number 1 because Henry Hill survived the mob, the feds, and witness protection and still managed to blow it all himself. Before we get into it, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still quotes this movie at dinner. Alright, do I amuse you? Do I make you laugh? Alright, let's begin. Number 10. The prosecutor wasn't acting. He was just being himself. Goodfellas delivers authenticity throughout. Real locations, genuine slang, actual cash on set, and in the final act, a real federal prosecutor playing himself on screen. Edward McDonald was the actual U.S. attorney who handled Henry Hill's case and negotiated his family's entry into witness protection. The way he ended up in the film is almost as good as the scene itself. The production sent a crew member to photograph his office and pull personal props for set dressing. McDonald got suspicious he would never see his belongings again, asked who was playing him, and when no one had been cast yet, volunteered himself on the spot. The production called back to confirm he was serious. He absolutely was. Scorsese brought him in and had Liotta and Bracco fire impromptu questions at him directly. McDonald answered everything in his own words, without missing a beat. Scorsese watched briefly and said, "That was great. You will be hearing from us." The scene where Henry and Karen negotiate their way into witness protection is essentially the actual conversation that happened. McDonald wasn't interpreting someone else's account. He was replaying his own. His most memorable line, telling Karen to drop the babe in the woods routine, was never scripted. It came out during one of the 6 takes filmed that day, and Scorsese kept it without hesitation. Hollywood spends millions manufacturing authenticity. Scorsese simply called the man who was actually there. Number 9. De Niro called Henry Hill so often it became practically a second job. Most actors do their research and move forward. De Niro treated his Goodfellas preparation like a dedicated full-time project. The filmmakers had already arranged direct access to the real Henry Hill, paying him a substantial consulting fee to keep details accurate. Hill later said the finished film was about 95% accurate, which is genuinely alarming given what made it into the movie. But accurate wasn't enough for De Niro. He wanted granular specificity. He called Hill constantly, sometimes up to 8 times a day at the peak of his research, and not to discuss broad dramatic material. De Niro wanted tiny, almost absurdly specific behavioral details. How exactly did Jimmy hold his cigarette? How did he distribute cash? How did he pour ketchup? At one point, De Niro reportedly asked about the precise way Jimmy tapped a bottle before pouring. The man required condiment accuracy and considered it non-negotiable. Hill answered everything patiently, and the obsession pays off in every frame. Every casual gesture carries the weight of someone who actually lived it. Joe Pesci's Tommy DeVito landed with near perfection too, with one gloriously ironic exception. The real Tommy was over 6 feet tall and built like a small tank. Pesci stands 5 feet 4 inches on a generous day. Same terrifying energy. Dramatically different silhouette. Somehow it didn't matter at all. Number 8. Real personal grief powered one of the film's darkest scenes. Karen's neighbor Bruce isn't just talking. He got physical with her, and Henry responds in the only way that makes sense to him. He grabs his gun and pistol whips the man half to death on his own front steps. What reads as explosive, uncontrolled rage was fueled by something far more personal. During production, Liotta received a call on set telling him his mother was dying of cancer and had very little time left. He finished the scene he was filming and rushed to her. He made it in time. She died in his arms. He didn't speak about it publicly for years. Then he returned and finished the film. When the pistol whipping scene came up, First AD Joseph Reedy noted that Liotta had received another call about his mother just before they rolled. Liotta himself said simply, "I was wound up." The man on screen is not performing rage. He is operating from inside it. Director of photography Michael Ballhaus noted that Liotta constantly exceeded every physical boundary planned for the scene. Scorsese kept rolling regardless. Ilana Douglas, present on set, later said Liotta's real grief was playing out on camera in real time, and Scorsese knew it and used it deliberately. The result is a scene that carries no trace of choreography. It feels like an actual breakdown that someone happened to be filming. Hey, quick pause. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so this channel doesn't go swimming with the fishes. And as Henry himself once put it, for us to live any other way was nuts. So live right, subscribe, and we're going to keep the facts coming. All right, let's get back to it. Those helicopters, they ain't going to outrun themselves. Number 7. A scene looked so real it sent a cast member to the emergency room. Spider is a young kid working for the crew, fetching drinks, staying out of the way, and trying hard not to attract attention from the wrong people. He doesn't quite manage that last part. Tommy shoots him twice, once for being annoying and once for having the nerve to say something about it. It's played almost casually, which is exactly what makes it so disturbing. A stunt double was available for the death scene, but Imperioli said no. He wanted to do the fall himself. The prop department was supposed to hand him breakaway sugar glass, the standard production-safe variety designed to shatter harmlessly. They handed him a real drinking glass instead. When Imperioli hit the bar and went down, the glass shattered and cut 2 of his fingers open. He looked up and found Niro standing over him. A production assistant drove him to the nearest ER in Queens, where staff took one look at a man covered in blood with 3 apparent bullet holes in his chest and immediately went into full trauma response. Imperioli tried to explain he had been filming a movie and was basically fine, that he had been working with Robert Niro, all while soaked head to toe in stage blood. That is precisely what a genuinely confusing gunshot victim would say. Nobody believed him. It took the team cutting open his shirt and finding the wires and squibs underneath before the alarm settled. No gunshot wounds. 2 cut fingers. At which point the hospital calmly sent him back to the waiting room. After everything, Imperioli waited for stitches and went straight back to set. The dedication is impressive. The dry cleaning bill had to be extraordinary. Number 6. Joe Pesci delivered the quietest speech after the loudest performance. Pesci spent the entire runtime of Goodfellas screaming, threatening, and making grown men deeply reconsider their life choices. Goodfellas received 6 nominations at the 1991 Oscars. Of the entire cast, only 2 received individual recognition. Lorraine Bracco for Best Supporting Actress and Pesci for Best Supporting Actor. Bracco didn't win, but Pesci did. He walked to the microphone and said, "It is my privilege, thank you." No list of names, no emotional moment, no lingering with the statue. The entire speech clocked roughly 3 seconds, one of the shortest acceptance speeches in Oscar history, delivered by the man who made a single word genuinely terrifying for an entire generation. The best part is, he had no expectation of winning whatsoever. He was up against Al Pacino and Andy Garcia and had skipped speech preparation entirely on that basis. In his mind, the evening was simply a pleasant outing with a statue he wasn't taking home. Then his name was called, and somewhere between his seat and the microphone, he decided 5 words would cover it adequately. It was the only award the film took home all night. 3 seconds at the podium, 1 statue, 0 wasted syllables. Tommy DeVito had a monologue for every occasion. Joe Pesci handled the biggest night of his career before the applause even finished. Number 5. Al Pacino said no and spent years regretting it. Before Niro made Jimmy Conway the kind of man who smiles warmly while quietly arranging your destruction, the role was offered to Al Pacino and Pacino turned it down. He didn't want to play another gangster. By 1990, he had already been Michael Corleone in The Godfather and Tony Montana in Scarface, and another mob role felt like permanently cementing himself as that guy forever.
So he passed.
The irony is that while Pacino was carefully avoiding gangster typecasting, he was simultaneously filming Dick Tracy playing Big Boy Caprice, a broad, cartoonish mob boss in very loud clothing. He received an Oscar nomination for it, which somehow makes the whole situation considerably worse. Goodfellas dropped and became one of the greatest crime films ever made. Niro is ice-cold and utterly magnetic as Jimmy Conway. What are you, stupid? And Pacino is elsewhere in a comic strip hat arguing with Warren Beatty. He later admitted he regretted passing and especially regretted missing the chance to work with Scorsese at that precise moment in both their careers. The man tried to escape the gangster label and landed in a cartoon mob movie. At least Niro's suit fit better. Number 4. Early audiences hated the film and walked out in large numbers. What is now considered one of the greatest films ever made once cleared a screening room almost as efficiently as a fire alarm. Early test screenings were, to put it gently, a complete disaster. This sucks. A screening in Orange County was peak "we came here for a pleasant evening" territory. Nicholas Pelly described the crowd as white conservative Southern Californians completely unprepared for what they were about to experience. Things fell apart the moment the Billy Bats beating began. About 70 people walked out before the film was anywhere close to finished. The comment cards from those who stayed were not encouraging. One viewer simply wrote "FQ" on an official studio feedback card, which was filed away for posterity. When a technical problem forced a pause in one screening, the crew slipped out to a nearby bowling alley. When they returned, audience members were calling for Scorsese by name, not to offer congratulations. Scorsese was simultaneously facing the real threat of losing his R rating. His response was precise. Around 10 violent scenes got trimmed and sharpened. The Billy Bats stabbing dropped from 7 on-screen hits to 4, with the remaining 3 preserved in audio only, which Scorsese argued hit harder anyway. The chaotic final act was recut with rapid-fire edits mirroring Henry's cocaine spiral unraveling. One silver lining emerged. The studio had wanted to cut the kitchen scene with Scorsese's mother entirely, calling it too long. The comment card saved it. It was the one element audiences consistently praised even among those who hated everything else. Scorsese said that is the only reason he is grateful those screenings happened. Less became more and faster became genuinely frightening. The film audiences fled in Orange County became the one critics couldn't stop praising. Number 3. Several extras were actual gangsters with completely invented personal information. Most productions casting mob extras work through an agency. Goodfellas took a different approach entirely. To fill the background of mob scenes with genuine texture, the production brought in real connected individuals, actual mob associates who knew from personal experience exactly how to stand, move, and occupy a room full of criminals. Authenticity at its finest. A perfectly reasonable casting decision. And then payroll arrived. Standard studio paperwork requires legal names, addresses, and social security numbers. Routine documentation for any normal employee. But for a significant portion of the Goodfellas extras, providing that information to a Hollywood studio that would forward it directly to the IRS was simply not going to happen. So they did what any reasonable person avoiding a paper trail would do. They invented numbers on the spot, reciting 9 random digits until the combination sounded convincing enough to get past the person with the clipboard. According to co-writer Nicholas Pelleggi, the Warner Brothers payroll records contain social security numbers belonging to absolutely no human being on this planet. The studio had no genuine idea who several of these people were, where they came from, or what they did when not standing in the background of a mob movie. Watch those scenes again. The way the extras carry themselves, the particular weight they bring to simply being in a room, is something most professional background actors cannot manufacture. Several of them weren't manufacturing anything at all. Number 2. Ray Liotta essentially auditioned by walking into a wall of security and handling it with complete composure. Liotta didn't wait by the phone like a patient and conventional person. But what happened in Venice wasn't entirely calculated. It simply worked out that way. Liotta was at the Venice Film Festival with his own film, Dominic and Eugene. Scorsese was there for the world premiere of The Last Temptation of Christ, which had generated enough controversy and genuine threats to require a full security detail at all times. Scorsese had seen Liotta's work and responded to it but had a specific concern. Liotta had played Ray Sinclair in Something Wild, explosive and genuinely frightening, and Scorsese worried that energy might be too purely aggressive for Henry Hill, who needed charm at least as much as menace. The role required someone who could make audiences root for a man doing consistently terrible things. Scorsese wasn't certain Liotta was that person. Then they ended up in the same hotel lobby. Liotta spotted Scorsese across the Excelsior, moved toward him with a simple "Hey, Marty," and walked directly into a wall of professional security. A bodyguard stepped in front of him immediately. Full stop. Liotta's own account. He said simply, No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say hi to Marty. No scene, no wounded speech, no lingering at the perimeter. Just quiet and immediate acknowledgement that this wasn't the moment, delivered without any trace of bruised ego. They made brief eye contact across the lobby, communicated they would connect later, and went their separate ways. That, Scorsese said afterward, was the actual audition. The stillness. The ability to absorb a complete and sudden stop without flinching or reacting. That was Henry Hill standing right there in front of him. A man who understood how to recognize a closed door and wait with confidence for the next opening. The question of charm versus aggression resolved itself entirely in a hotel lobby, without a single line of dialogue. And number 1. Henry Hill personally destroyed his own witness protection because he couldn't resist telling everyone about the movie. After everything Henry Hill survived, the crimes, the arrests, the betrayals, the federal negotiations, he walked away with something almost nobody who lives that life ever receives. A genuine second chance. New name, new city, clean slate. All he had to do was disappear and stay disappeared. Then Goodfellas came out, and Henry Hill watched a movie about his own life and completely lost his composure over it, in the most understandable but operationally catastrophic way imaginable. He started telling people who he was. Neighbors, strangers, anyone in earshot who seemed mildly interested. That movie right there, that is me. For a man legally obligated to be a private, anonymous citizen living under an assumed name, Hill was out in the world personally autographing his own federal protection arrangement. The attention was too intoxicating. The recognition too good to walk away from. He gave interviews, collected new charges, and treated witness protection less like a lifeline and more like a hotel checkout date he could always push back. His post-protection years were not quiet, by any measure. He cycled in and out of legal trouble regularly, accumulating drug and alcohol charges, the kind of record that ages a parole officer visibly overnight. He never stayed clean for long, but remained deliberately visible. Interviews, memorabilia signings, and a restaurant he called Wise Guys because subtlety was never his department. Henry Hill died in June of 2012 from complications related to heart disease. He was 69 years old. The mob wanted him dead. The feds buried him under a new identity. Witness protection handed him a clean slate, but his own nature turned out to be a more persistent opponent than any of them. And there you have it. 15 weird facts about Goodfellas, the film that made pasta feel dangerous and turned How Am I Funny into something nobody has said comfortably at dinner since 1990. Which one surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. And if you know someone who has every word of Henry's voiceover memorized, share this with them right now. They will owe you one. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell because unlike Henry Hill, we are not blowing our cover anytime soon. Until next time, this is Remember When.